And now...
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Rob Pop YouTube channel, your #1 pit stop for all things Eurovision this year. And in this video, we're going to be taking an introspective look at the results from Eurovision 2025 and celebrating all the things that need to be celebrated. So much of the aftermath following the final of Eurovision has been flooded with debate and controversy. And honestly, rightly so. Discussion of Israel's Televote and their participation in the competition at large is absolutely something that needs to be discussed, and there are already countless content creators who have made videos raising this issue. However, while it is important to shine a spotlight on this, I also believe that there is so much to celebrate from the amazing Eurovision 2025 week and the week that I personally spent in Basel. So I would love to take a chance to speak about why I love this year's contest so much rather than focus on the negatives. This is a celebration of Eurovision 2025 looking at the success stories such as Latvia, Albania and the winners Austria of course, analysing the semi-results, jury results, televote results, celebrating the host and Basel itself, even if it has left my wallet completely dry.
Spare change, ma'am.
So before we begin, I'd love if you could let me know down below what you loved about this Eurovision this year. We're trying to spread positivity, so were there any songs that surprised you once they hit the stage in Basel? Was this one of your favourite years to date? Who deserves to be shown more love? Hit me up in the comments below so we can spread the love. But as ever, before we do begin, it would be amazing to remind you to subscribe to this channel. While this probably will be my last video discussing Eurovision 2025, which makes me so sad, this is certainly not the end of this channel. So whether you want to catch up on the camp content of the last few months, or you're eagerly awaiting what's to come in the months to come, I would love if you could come along and support the channel. We love to have a cup of tea and have a laugh and a giggle about our favourite contest over here. So hit subscribe, give this video a like, hit the bell for notifications, and comment down below. No stresso, no need to be depresso, it's that easy. And we haven't got espresso anyway, it's a hot chocolate. Right, let's get to celebrating the week of Eurovision 2025, and we're gonna start with the semi-finals. And my God, did the semi-finals this year throw up some shocks. Not one, not two, but literally like 4 or 5 shocks this year to really keep us on our toes. But before we begin discussing the semi-finals individually, I just want to say how much I love this year's qualifier reveals, and I really didn't think I was going to. I even tweeted saying this is nonsense. The whole 3 songs on screen, only one can make it business. It really sounded overcomplicated on paper, but in reality, the drama was real. The audible gasp that travelled across the room, I was in Eurofans Club, when Slovenia, Azerbaijan and Portugal were placed on screen and we realised one of them had made it, whilst 2 of Belgium, Cyprus and Ukraine hadn't. That was peak Eurovision, one of my highlights of the year. Did it make me feel like I was going to be violently sick at times, like the numerous occasions of which they showed Mariana Conte on screen but failed to put her through? Yes. Does it feel ever so slightly cruel? Maybe a little. But my God, it was great TV and it made me feel like my heart was in my throat at all times. So kudos to the producers on this one. You were right, I was wrong. I'm happy for this format change to remain for the semi-final results going forward, because this was a nail biter and I want that to stick around. Let's remind ourselves of the results of semi-final 1. I'll put them on screen just for a moment. It was actually a really tight semi-final with only 25 points separating the top 5 countries. Led by Ukraine and followed by Albania, Netherlands, Sweden and Austria in that order. Now, given that Sweden was strong favourites to win this semi-final as the expected televote victor of the whole competition at this time, it does seem wild to see them all the way down in 4th. Albeit that only being about 19 points shy of actually winning the semi-final. It was actually Ukraine who won the semi-final, and honestly, I kind of feel like people are doing too much on the whole they just get points because of the war ordeal. I mean, even if they did, good for them, they're quite literally the victims of an ongoing war. Please stop comparing them to Israel. But it's not like Ukraine swept the 12s in this semi-final in a Kalush orchestra style domination. They only received 12 points from 4 out of a possible 19 countries. They just received votes from every single country. And I don't think you can say how this had nothing to do with the song. Bird of Prey was really well liked, so good for Ukraine. 100% qualification streak still intact, and with another semi-win under their belt, it's not particularly under threat either. Albania. One of the biggest countries to celebrate from this year, and I I'm only going to scratch the surface of talking about them here because I will discuss Squadra Electronic's Germ a little later when we dive into the final. But second place in the semi-finals is a huge success for this song. We all as a fandom felt like it deserved this kind of placing, but we had fears from the ghosts of, Ulverham and Aya telling us that this might just not connect with the public. Thankfully, we were very wrong with that. That didn't happen. I'm not sure we could have ever called this toppling Barabana Bastio and Espresso Macchiato in the public vote though. So, in order to come second in this semi-final was a huge triumph. The public really got behind Germ, and rightly so. I mean, it wound up in my top 3 of the whole year after seeing it live. One of the best songs from this year. It was also a fantastic semi-final for countries singing in their own language. I mean, every single country that failed to make it from semi-final 1 sung in English. And 2 of the countries that made it, which the bookies didn't have predicted to in the run-up to the contest, were triumphant in their own language. Those countries being Iceland and Portugal. I'm going to talk about Iceland first of all because I was so thrilled to see this make the final. I called it in my prediction video. I just had this gut feeling all year long that Roa was going to make it. I just felt like the boys' vibe are so immediately likeable, their energy is infectious, and Roa was in my head nearly all week in Basel. Whenever their recap played in the arena as the first song of the recap at each time for the semi-final, me and my boyfriend would jump up and down like crazy. We were swinging one another around like we were from Iceland. I predicted it would be the perfect party starter, and opening the semi-final would work in its favour, and honestly, I think I was right on this one. This was such a great start to the Eurovision year, and it just felt like a real celebratory moment. And in the end, looking at the results, it wasn't even close. Iceland actually qualified in 6th place in the end, receiving points from all but 2 countries, and one of those is the rather weird-looking made-up San Marino vote, so take that with a pinch of salt. And I think whenever this song plays at Eurovision parties for years to come, it'll be the one to get everyone on their feet. So good for you boys, good for Iceland, you smashed it out of the park. This was a real triumph for the year for me. And that brings us to Portugal. I mean, quite literally 15th out of 15th in the odds on some occasions during rehearsal week. But I did say in a sea of up-tempos, I wouldn't be surprised if either Portugal or Slovenia snuck their way in, and sure enough, it was Portugal who made it once again against the odds. And they made it in 9th place, 12 points ahead of Cyprus in 11th. All but 4 countries voted for this, and I feel like this was one of the biggest beneficiaries of that whole thing of picking up trickle votes, just charming enough to get the 4s and the 5s, just to push it over the line. Many had written this off, but Portugal continue to remain in their own lane with Eurovision. They're not trying to be anything they're not. Even when people say these songs aren't Eurovision friendly, they make it anyway. I mean, Grito and this song were meant to be jury favourites, but not Televote favourites, and a shock they cause again, and we love to see shocks at Eurovision, so let's celebrate Portugal. Big up the boys from Napa and Destacado, because this was a real pleasant surprise. But we did see some big shocks from these results, and certainly not due to a lack of great performances. I'd honestly say my biggest grower of the entire competition after seeing it live was Belgium's Red Sebastian with strobe lights, and I definitely want to take time in this video to congratulate him on a superb performance. You'd think this celebration video would be just for people who made the final, but I really think that Red Sebastian deserves celebrating. I mean, his failure to qualify had everyone gagged, and seeing that he finished 14th out of 15th is an even bigger gag that I cannot even begin to explain. The staging for strobe lights was superb. I loved the dancers, the colouring, the vocals when he was able to let rip were on point. I've seen a few people retrospectively saying that the vocals were shaky, but honestly, even listening back, I totally disagree. I think we must be listening to different performances. I really think if this made the final, then the juries would have gobbled this up. But nonetheless, I had the pleasure of actually bumping into Red Sebastian outside of Euroclub on Wednesday, the day after he failed to make the final. He was unbelievably kind, gracious in defeat, still positive. He was a presence at Euroclub almost all week, and I think he just seems like a really wonderful person, that this result does not define him. So here's to Red Sebastian, Euroclub's #1 party boy, and my #1 robbery of the semi-finals this year by far. Here's to you, Red Sebastian, we still love you. I have to hand it to nearly all of the songs in this semi for pulling it out the bag, to be honest, staging-wise. I mean, Theo Evans' Shush was really impressive to watch in person. I don't know if it came across on screen, but seeing how his whole team navigated that tricky scaffolding staging with ease for 3 minutes, it was impressive. Slovenia's Marko Bosniak, I mean, he really gave it his all with impressive staging, impressive vocals, and in the end he pushed himself to 12th with a song that many had deemed as a no-hoper. Clement was slick, Azerbaijan, okay, nearly everyone's performances in this semi-final were impressive. So a big round of applause to everyone in semi-final 1 for kicking off the Eurovision week with a bang and making what I thought was the weaker semi-final feel like a real battle for those top 10 spots. Now let's take a look at the results for semi-final 2. I'll pop them on screen again for you. Perhaps quite predictably, again, the semi-final was won by Israel quite convincingly. Then in second place is where things get super unpredictable in the best way possible. Latvia's Tortamaitis with Man Limey. Shout out to all of you in the comment section who rightfully said I was ridiculous for thinking this song wouldn't even qualify. I've said all season long that this as a performance is one of the best, if not the actual best of the entire year, but I just thought, again, to reference the likes of Iya, but it was the sort of song that the public usually snub. I was wrong, you were right, and I'm very happy that you are all right, because Berman Limey was one of 2025's biggest successes, picking up votes from every single country in this semi-final, and looking at the performance, how could it not? The part of the performance when their tails grew out of the shadows on the backdrop is probably my favourite staging decision of the whole year, and I'm going to speak about them a bit more when it comes to discussing the final, but they really couldn't have done anything more, and I love that they shattered everyone's expectations and turned a borderline qualification into a soaring semi-victory. Good for Latvia. There was a big gap between the top 6 in the semi-final and the rest, and I'm really happy to see Greece and Lithuania absolutely storm this semi-final too. Both songs I had billed as likely qualifiers, but I had slight doubts for different reasons over whether they connect with the public or not. And I'm happy to see they both absolutely did. I mean, Claudia, huge success story of this year that I'll discuss further later, again, because they made the final, but richly deserved for her to have sailed through this semi-final with vocals that perfect. And Lithuania, again, they continue to prove that no genre is off limits at Eurovision. We've never seen moody, grungy Lithuanian language rock before, but they said, hey, that's no problem. Semi-final 2 is definitely full of shocks though, much the same as the first semi-final, and I think I got 8 out of 10 correct in both semi-finals, but there were 2 countries that I disagreed with the odds on in this semi-final to predict, and those were Denmark and Armenia, and guess what, bitches? I was right this time. I have to be right at least once. Oh my god, was I happy for Queen Sissal. I near enough screamed until I had no voice left when Hallucination made it to the final. And so did Sissal. I mean, her reaction to qualifying is one of my highlights of the whole year. Sissal herself has been such a joy to follow on socials in the lead up to this competition. She's been such a cheerleader for so many artists, but it would have been gutting to see her not receive the flowers for herself. I mean, especially after tearing the roof off with her vocals. In the end, she came 8th in the semi-final, 20 points away from a non-qualification spot, so it really wasn't even that close. But most importantly, she broke Denmark's long-ass streak of non-qualification. Did it go the way we hoped in the final? Not quite, but I do feel like qualification was probably the main goal for this song, and Sissal absolutely deserved to be the one to achieve that with this banger of a song and that killer of a voice. Qualification streaks were also broken for Malta too, and Mirjana Conte should be so proud of herself. This year, presumably as a response to the expected booing for Israel, crowd noise was turned down, which resulted in quite a liveless sounding broadcast from what I've watched back. I was actually in the arena for the semi-final 2 live show, and a friend texted me while it was on, and he was like, why is the crowd so shit? We really weren't. I know for one, I was going absolutely crazy and shouting "Can" when Mirjana was bouncing up and down on those yoga balls, but I feel like it wasn't felt through the screen due to this ridiculous production choice. Can you cast your minds back and imagine some of your favourites from years gone by without crowd noise? Slow-mo without a sea of gays screaming for Chanel's dance breakdown. Bojana Stamanov, Beauty Never Lies, when the crowd roared when the beat suddenly picked up. This needs to be rectified going into 2026 because crowd interaction and the energy that the crowd brings to the broadcast of Eurovision is what makes it feel so special. The audience make these songs feel alive. And it was slightly lost for poor Mirjana. She did a great with her staging and the spread legs and lips, but we really were missing crowd interaction, if you ask me. Mirjana did amazing though. Those vocals were on, she served a whole lot of sass, a whole lot of ass, and just like herself for Denmark, I feel like the main aim for Malta must have been to make it back to the final and break that run of non-qualifications, and she did that. What happened in the final is irrelevant. Mirjana is a finalist. Serving is a Eurovision classic forever. It will be played forever till the end of time, in the words of Loreen, and nothing can convince me that Mirjana Conte is not one of Eurovision 2025's biggest icons. I actually already miss seeing her on my socials. I love that woman so much.
I look like a beauty blender.
Okay, now let's discuss some of the shocks that didn't make it from semi-final 2. I mean, the biggest of these being Australia. I mean, I hadn't even conceived in my mind that this was a possibility. In my semi-final prediction video, you can watch it back. I know I'm often wrong, but I had Milkshake Man in my 100% certain list, and while I thought that the juries may tank this in the final, I thought the Televote would eat this up. In the end, while it did pick up votes from a majority of countries, no country gave it more than a 6. So I really hope this isn't where Australia give up. I have my theories as to why this song didn't make it, but I don't want to use this video as advice to shit on people, so I think it's worth saying that Gojo did Australia super proud, a great ambassador for the country, and I think a lot of people would have this high on their list of biggest shocks of the whole year. And the same goes for Czechia, also a big shocker. Perhaps less so on the night, but I definitely wouldn't have called it before rehearsal week. They're another country where I'm crossing everything that they decide to stick in the contest, because I love Czechia in this contest and I hope they don't pull out. I follow their head of PR, Ahmed Haloun, on socials, and his attitude towards Aiko's and Adonis's non-qualifications is so positive and so spot on. They're two amazing artists who came close and showed their artistry amazingly, but didn't quite make the cut. And that's the harsh world of Eurovision, but Adonis, again, can be so proud of himself. He's a fantastic performer, a slick dancer. It didn't all come together on the night, and I think you could say that for pretty much every non-qualifier. Emmy, Prince, Nina. I can see why they all didn't make it, but semi-final 2 was the strongest semi-final, and they all really gave it everything with superb attitudes towards the contest. So I hope they're all being shown love from their countries, because semi-final 2 was super strong. So those are the semi-finals out of the way. We'll move on to the finals in a little bit, but I guess as a little bit of an interval, I wanted to celebrate Basel as a host city. So this was my 3rd year in a row attending Eurovision, and while I don't think anything will ever quite live up to Liverpool for me as a Brit, and it being my first Eurovision, this was definitely up there. It was another case of a city really feeling like it was giving everything to the Eurovision fans. Basel handed itself over, streets adorned with flags, the locals were all showing so much love. I felt like last year in Malmö felt a little bit muted, a little bit like Sweden just were over-winning, but Basel couldn't have been much different. The city went all in, the stadium was visually stunning, Euro Club was superb, the whole setup of that was really grand and epic. The Euro Village being inside was a cool new touch, which had not really been done before, but I guess they couldn't have foreseen that the weather would be like 24 degrees, so my will to be cooped up inside a dark warehouse for Euro Village was not really there. But hey, the effort was, so kudos. Absolutely love Basel, superb host city. So much to see, and a really stunning location, so sending love to you all in Switzerland. The hosts as well were a real triumph this year, not least the weirdest host we possibly ever had in Hazel Ruger. I mean, it consistently felt like she was going off script and making it up as she went along, but in the most zany and lovable way possible. One of my highlights of the whole year was the semi-final segment with Hazel and Erica trying the fondue. The meme of Erica's lips covered in cheese, I'm sure will be featured in every video of mine for the next 12 months. I mean, you know how obsessed I am with Erica. The Made in Switzerland sketch, an immediate classic. Sandra and Michelle were also really likeable, and I just think that while there was probably a lot going on behind the scenes, just as there were last year, and people have come away with this kind of unease and negativity because of the results, that certainly is not a reflection on Switzerland and their hosting. So while I think that this year has had a rough ride, results aside, I think Switzerland, you put on a fantastic show, with or without the Celine that we hoped for. Right, let's get into the final then, shall we? We'll first talk about the jury, then the televote, then everything as a whole. The jury. Now, before I allow myself to go on a bit of a rant about the jury, I would like to obviously say thank you to the jury for saving Eurovision 2025. Obviously, without them, there may well be no Eurovision 2026, and they did save some of my favourites, but undeservedly bombed. But those compliments do not come without criticism, because I do have some gripes. If we start from the bottom, I can't say I was surprised to see Iceland and San Marino down there. I very much called Iceland being the exact sort of thing that the juries don't love. But this is also why I'm glad there are no juries in the semi-finals anymore, because a final without Vi would have been a much darker place. In 24th with the juries, however, I want to talk about one of my highlights of the year, Poland. 17 points from the jury. Let's really talk about this. 17 points. It does feel like almost every year that Poland make the finals that the juries mark them down and they have to rely on the televote to pull them up. Sometimes I can see the reason why. This time, however, I just don't get it. Please tell me what more Justyna could have done. The vocals were impeccable each and every time, from national final to rehearsal to the final. They never once dropped, and this is while considering Justyna is spinning, dipping, playing the violin, floating up to the sky, running, jumping, you name it. Justyna did it all, and the vocals never faltered. And what's the reward for that? 17 points. 7 countries deemed Poland worthy of a top 10 ranking amongst the juries, and that is just so wildly unjust for me. I can see that potentially the song may have been messy for some, not for me before you shout at me, but for some. But honestly, so was the UK song. That was a structural mess as well, and they wound up top 10 with the juries because the girls had flawless vocals. There is nothing you can say to me that could convince me that Poland deserved to be 24th out of 26 with the jury. What's the tea? And I'm going to carry that through to talking about Albania's performance with the juries, because I feel the same there too. And I feel like there's a running thread between Poland and Albania's jury performance and where I feel the juries are going wrong in places. I can't sit here and say that the juries have a problem with different languages, because in the top 5 they had 2 songs in French and 1 song in Italian. What I will say is that all of those 3 songs were ballads, and French and Italian are both widely spoken languages. It really seems to me like countries singing in their native language, in a language such as Albanian or Polish, less commonly spoken, they seem to have to work overtime to receive the same respect. Beauty doesn't just come in the form of a French chanson, and what makes Eurovision so special is a variety of styles and language that show off Europe's breadth of musical expression. There is absolutely no reasoning in my brain to explain why Germ, performed and sung exceptionally, received 45 points, whilst a song like Espresso Macchiato received more than doubles with vocals like his. And that's not to say the jury shouldn't appreciate novelty and silliness. There's space for that in the competition too, but 16th place and 45 points for Germ feels like an insult, and I can't help feel like this is a language issue. In years gone by, we've seen the likes of the impeccably performed Norwegian language Ulvaham receiving just 12 points. Slovenian language Veronica also finished bottom 5 with the juries. I mean, honestly, you could argue that even this year, even though Latvia and Greece were more appreciated by the juries, finishing in 7th and 8th respectively, there was still a notable gap between them and France or Switzerland. And honestly, I'd argue that Albania, Greece's and Latvia's songs were more intricate, vocally stronger than France and Switzerland as well. I'd go as far as to say Claudia probably had the best vocals of the whole competition, but still sat 153 points adrift of victory. It's definitely something to bear in mind, but in the case of Germ, I can't help but feel disappointed, and I know I'm not alone with those feelings. This is a celebration video though, so we'll pick the mood back up, and I do want to celebrate the success of both Latvia and Greece with the juries, even if I do think they could have done better. Hell, is it crazy to say I think Latvia could have even won the juries? I mean, other than Austria, the actual winners of the jury, name me a better stage show with exquisite vocals to match. I'll wait. I was happy to see that juries didn't shy away from rewarding fun also. While I do think the criteria they're voting on means that entries like well-sung ballads deserve to do well, it's pleasing to see that up-tempos can still perform well with the juries. Malta are a big case of this. They finished 12th with the juries, and honestly, deservedly so. Just because Mariana was singing a sillier song, she knocked it out of the park with performance and vocals. The same goes for Germany. I firmly expected them to finish low with the juries, but they finished 13th, with Alborentina delivering what is realistically the most contemporary entry of the whole contest. And I definitely think that's something that should be marked up too for the juries. And also the UK finishing top 10 with the juries felt like a huge success, and I am delighted for the girls. I mean, as a Brit myself, whether I love the song or not, there's always going to be a side of me that wants to root for my own country, and Remember Monday have been fantastic ambassadors for us. Whatever lacked on the song was more than made up for with vocals and a real camaraderie on stage that just made you fall in love with them. So I'm glad that the juries were able to give this some love, because while I don't think it deserved top 10 overall, I think where it ended up was probably about right, and that's thanks to the juries putting it top 10. I can't end up talking about the juries without mentioning the winners Austria either, or runners-up Switzerland for that matter, especially as the latter received 100% of their love from the jury. These two songs were absolute stunners. I mean, Austria did feel like the right jury winner. The staging direction was bold, it was adventurous, but JJ took it completely in his stride with an empowering and angsty grunt to boot. I mean, it wasn't a runaway jury victory like we've seen with Nemo and Loreen recently, but it definitely felt like a deserving winner. It's easy to see how this had every foundation needed to resonate with a set of juries who were voting on originality, vocal capacity, performance and staging, and overall impression. This makes a great first impression, so good for JJ. Right, televote now. Let's look at this breakdown together. I guess we have to start from the bottom and work our way up. And there were some sad tales of some big underperformances this year. A bottom 5 filled with some really iconic females. 2 nil poires, 1 for Switzerland, 1 for United Kingdom is probably the biggest talking point here. I mean, were we shocked for the United Kingdom? Not really. I mean, the girls themselves had their heads in their hand, crossing their fingers before the points were revealed as well, so I think they probably thought it could be coming. Again, 0 points does feel harsh after such a great performance, but the girls took it in great spirit. Zoe took it well also. I mean, from second place in the juries to nothing with the public, that's a pretty bitter pill to swallow. I would not know how to react from that kind of fall from grace, and I don't think any of us saw it coming. I don't think any of us believe it was deserved either. I mean, Voyage is a stunning song, my favourite ballad of the year for sure. I love the staging too. I mean, I don't really get what went wrong here. I think it must just be a case of it just not being anyone's favourite. Melody, I feel, deserved better on the night, but the end result is kind of what I expected. She killed the performance though, so I'm glad at least the juries got on board. I was actually really surprised to see San Marino so low with the televote. I mean, we do know by now that smaller countries like Malta, Luxembourg, San Marino, they do struggle to garner the votes, and we've seen this before when we thought Senate and Flowrider were going to absolutely smash the votes, and they didn't. The trend can be booked sometimes, and I thought that may have been the case here, so that was a little disappointing for them. Seeing Latvia as low as 15th seemed a shame at the time, but it feels even more disappointing now that we know how well they did in the semi-finals. So to go from receiving points from every country in the semi-finals to just 42 points in the final feels really unjust, but it just did seem to be a really spread year, with a lot of the 12s being eaten up by Israel. So the final results just end up feeling a bit all over the place. And I don't think it's a reflection on the Latvian girls. The televote felt disappointing for France and the Netherlands as well. I mean, I wasn't as shocked about the latter. I've said multiple times I thought C'est La Vie was being overpredicted in the odds, but in the end, when we look at the fact that France, the Netherlands and Switzerland all struggled with the televote, could it be the case that the French vote was split? It's a possibility. Maybe they stood out just a little bit less because there were 3 of them. I must say, I definitely expected more for Luan. I do feel disappointed for her because to me, the performance of Maman was one of my standouts of the year. And me and my boyfriend actually thought after seeing it live, oh, this could be a winner. I mean, I've seen the videos online, explosive diarrhea, yada, yada, yada. And that is unfortunate to say the least. I mean, I definitely have to wonder how not a single member of the French delegation watched back the rehearsal footage and noticed the placements of the sand looked odd. Very unfortunate. To me though, that just doesn't take away from the beauty of this song, and I do think that the staging was a great idea, apart from that one shot. Lithuania did better than some may have expected, and I'm particularly happy as well to see Kyle Alessandro came 12th with the public vote after a surprisingly low score from the juries. I thought it would be the other way around. I mean, I think the overall position for this song feels about right in the end. I don't think there was really a robbery there, but again, like Sissel, I just feel like Kyle is one of the most likeable and charismatic performers we've had this year, so I'm glad to see that translated into televotes for him, and I hope he had something to celebrate. Very much deserved for a really fantastic performance. That brings me to 11th with the televote, and that's where I can discuss Abor and Tina's Bola again just a little bit more. We all had fears this wasn't going to translate on the night. We all had fears in the months leading up to the competition that Tina's vocals just weren't strong enough. And if I'm being honest, on the night, I still don't really know if they were exactly perfect, but I kind of feel like this is the kind of song where that doesn't matter. I mean, I've compared this song many times to Charlie XCX, and the reason why we've just enjoyed a Brat Summer and why Charlie XCX has been so big in 2024 is not because of her vocals, it's more so the energy that she brings to the stage, the attitude in the lyrics, and that kind of effortless party vibe that she brings, and Bola delivers that same vibe so effortlessly. And it's no surprise that it's now becoming one of the biggest chart hits post Eurovision. It just charted at top 40 in the UK, and I fully support that. I think this at least serves as a lesson to Germany that they don't have to play it as safe as Isaac or Michael Schulte in order to get the votes. Keep taking risks, Germany, because I'll be hearing Bola at Euroclub for years to come and in the charts for months to come as well. And I feel that 11th with the televote is a better legacy to hold than coming left-hand side of the board with something that has been carried by the juries personally. I think this sends a better message to Germany that the public can get behind them with the right song. Bola Nation. Oh, that brings us to the top 10 with the televote, and to see the whole top 10 receiving 97 points or more is pretty remarkable. To put that into perspective, last year Lukto came 10th with the televote, receiving just 58 points. In 2023, 59 points would have got you a top 10 televoting place as well. So Italy coming 10th with 97 points is ridiculously high. And I don't think you'll have realised quite how well Lucio Corsi actually did with the public. Another year, another casual Italian sleigh without feeling like they barely had to lift a finger. So good for Lucio though. In a year of chaos, sometimes it's the calm that really stands out, and I think that's what serves Italy so well. I need a sip of my hot chocolate before I continue with this next one. I'd hoped for better than 108 points for Erica, and I don't think you can look at the performance and say she didn't deserve it. I watched the final from Basel's football stadium next door to the arena, and the atmosphere when Erica rose to the sky on top of a giant phallic microphone was electric. One of the best responses of the whole night. And I think most people would agree that Erica, Ish Comet, and the staging performance were a highlight of the night. 9th place in the televote doesn't really feel like a huge deal of justice towards that. I'm not sure quite what went wrong, what overshadowed it. It got votes in the majority of countries, but again, it seems to be one of the biggest victims to the big vote split. And I'm still crying about it. Greece coming 8th with the public is the one that I would never have called. I knew the jury would love it, and I know that the televote often do like Greece, but I did fear that Asta Amata may not be understood by them, maybe a bit too complex, but at the end of the day, how can you deny a talent like Claudius? Surprised? Yes. Deserved? Absolutely. And the same goes for Poland, my Justina. I mean, I've already discussed how I feel about Gaia and why it deserved more from the juries. And while I always knew that she would do better with the televote, I'm glad to see that rung true, and with quite a force as well. She rocketed up that scoreboard. I don't think Justina even realised how well she'd done initially. I mean, her vote reveal came on so early that her 139 points from the public felt a little overshadowed by what came after it. But now that we can break it all down, there's no denying that this was a huge win for Justina. 7th in the whole public vote, and richly deserved for all of the insane hard work she put in. And I'm glad that the televote were able to recognise that. Albania in 5th vote brings me the most joy. I mean, we really didn't know whether the fandom love for Jean was just a fandom bubble thing, or whether it would actually translate past the fandom. Turns out that Europe absolutely loved it too, and I couldn't be happier to be in sync with the rest of Europe on this one. 173 points, just 5 less than the overall winner of the contest. It really does prove that you can never really know exactly what is going to connect with the public. I mean, sometimes a risk can pay off. It did with Jeune and Corporate Sano and Chum. Sometimes it doesn't with Ulverham, Follen, etc. But when a risk pays off, it makes it feel all the more worth it. Austria in 4th was pleasing to see. I mean, especially when you consider that they only came 5th in their semi-final and what happened to Latvia after the semi-final. And it's also a relief for me that the winner of the competition didn't finish low down with the public. It was something I feared, as the judges do seem to be in control of selecting the winners of late, but clearly Wasted Love really did connect with the public. It received points from almost every country, and I think that just speaks to the fact that quality just cannot be denied when push comes to shove. JJ put everything into that performance, and again, the black and white artsy performance was a risk. Some didn't like it, some thought it was too much, but I think in the end, it really helped this to stick in the mind of the viewers from 8th in the running order, and JJ should be so proud of himself for turning what could have been simply a jury favourite, and nothing more like France and Switzerland, into something that was actually very compelling and memorable for the public as well. It's not easy to do when you're trying to keep control of those vocals. Sweden were the expected Televote winner, so when they received 195 points, in the moment, it felt like kind of a disappointment. I was prepared for like 300 plus, Baby Lasagna, Carrier style. But when you look at it broken down like this, it actually came 3rd with the Televote. And for a regional song about a sauna, take away the pre-contest hype and the overconfident odds, that really is a success. 3rd in the Televote is never something to turn your nose up at. Kai took a Swedish language song about sauna culture, something that isn't really relevant to most countries, and turned it into a Televote moment, which received points from all but 2 countries. Ignore what the odds are telling you and focus on the reality, and you'll see that this was still a storming success for Sweden. 3rd with the public is still superb for a foreign language Swedish song, when Sweden have been playing it safe for so many years. And finally, that takes us to Estonia. I mean, probably the biggest surprise of the night was their success. And that's not to say that I didn't see this doing well with the Televote. I think we all knew that Espresso Macchiato would do well with the Televote. I just don't think we realised quite how well. I mean, it would appear that in normal circumstances, this probably would have won the Televote. They received 258 points. That's 63 points more than Barabara Bastu, a song which you would think was probably shooting for a similar audience, and the song that most people thought would be the Televote winner. I've never been this song's biggest fan. I'm still not, but you really can't knock a huge success when you see one, and you've got to hand it to Tommy Cash for being able to sell this song so well. So, how does this shape up for the results as a whole? Let's take a look at the full results, just in case there's anything we haven't celebrated. The main thing I'm happy to see here is Latvia finishing on the left-hand side of the board. That is completely deserved. As I said, I think that really was a top 10 worthy entry. The same goes for Germany. I'm thrilled to see them as high as 151 points as well. I mean, 15th place on paper doesn't seem amazing, but again, for comparison's sake, let's look at the stats. The same points total would have seen Germany finish 11th in 2024 and 9th in 2023. The votes were just so split this year that seeing it in 15th place doesn't really tell the full story of how this was popular with both the jury and the Televote. Finland in 11th just feels so wrong to me, so I'm gonna say one last time how much I love this woman, Erika Wigman. Each comment immediately goes down as an all-time favourite for me. Insert picture of me crying after screaming my lungs out for it in the grand final. I mean, embarrassing. Who cries for a song about coming? Me, that too. This song just felt like a top 5 in every way possible, and Erika performed the life out of it. They finished top 10 with the public and the jury, but ultimately that weighed out as 11th place. It feels unjust, but I know Erika is going to go on to have a glittering career. I'm going to see her in London in October, and I'm so excited for that. I'm gutted for her because this position is less than it feels. But I'm an Erika stan for life, and I think she's made a whole army of fans. It wouldn't surprise me if she was invited back as an interval act in future years, because she cemented herself as a Eurovision star. 11th place just does not sell the picture of what a phenomenon this was. To speak about them one last time as well, Albania finishing 8th is also a huge success as well. It's their highest position since Seuss back in 2012. Scoreboard Electronic were never even predicted to win their national final, so even if some people may feel disappointed by this after a deservedly high televote, and the fact that it did feel like it should come top 5, at least it did come top 10, which is the bare minimum that it deserves. And the same has to be said for Greece. I mean, when I did my predictions on the day of the final, I did have this placing 10th, scraping the top 10, but to see this on the brink of top 5 must have exceeded everyone's expectations though, and you really cannot say that it was not deserved. Asta Amata deserved every single one of those points for how emotionally raw this song was, and 6th place is actually their highest place since Alcohol is Free came in 6th back in 2013. Good for Claudia, very well deserved. Another huge round of applause for Italy, managing another top 5. I mean, they really can do no wrong. Sweden coming 4th, also another huge success. I mean, as I said earlier, odds can distort things, and some may see this as an underperformance considering how dominant they were with the bookies all year, but perspective would still like to remind you that Kai were last in the odds to win Melody Festival, and when all of the names were revealed, they managed to topple past winner Monzemolo to get here, and then turn a regionally appealing sauna anthem into a top 5 finish. Nothing to turn your nose at, and everything for Sweden to be proud of. And as I said earlier, I'm desperate for this to spell a change in Melody Festival and going forward. Now the public can see sending a risk can still bring about the same amazing results they've been getting with safe radio pop. So let this encourage you, Sweden. Estonia in 3rd, as previously mentioned, is incredible. And honestly, good for Estonia. I feel like we haven't really spoken about this enough. Like, we focus on things like Denmark not having qualified for 6 years, but if you look at the stats, Estonia haven't had a top 5 result since 2002. That's 23 whole years, and after a few years of middle-of-the-road entries like Storm, Hope and Bridges, which felt like they were solely aiming for jury points, it's nice to see that they've switched that up. They did well last year, but this year they've received real Eurovision success. 2nd place, well done Estonia, well done Tommy Cash. Israel came 2nd, and then our winner JJ for Austria, which is absolutely where we need to close out our celebrations. We knew he'd be a contender. He was 2nd in the odds for most of the year, and from the first time I heard it, I knew it was going to be up there. I had my doubts over whether the song was catchy enough, or immediate enough, or what they do with the final 30 seconds, but it's very evident that this song is a worthy winner. Fantastic vocals, a fantastic command of a very complicated and tricky staging concept. JJ and Wasted Love are class personified, and I, for one, cannot wait to visit Vienna next year and see what JJ can do with his God-given talent for the rest of his career. His reaction was adorable. I think all of us feel happy for Austria, and I think we're just glad one last time for that grunt that guided him to victory. Well done, JJ, richly deserved. So that's my celebration of Eurovision 2025 brought to a close. I hope that it's helped you to reflect on what a wonderful year of Eurovision this has been, and to hopefully look past the huge wall of negativity that has wound up facing the aftermath of this year. Again, to clarify, just in case people think this is me turning a blind eye to the discussion people are having, it absolutely is not. My stance is extremely clear when I say free Palestine, and I hope we're not having the same discussions this time next year as we are right now. But it is also important to celebrate the countries who worked so hard on their packages for the last few months, delivered some incredible performance on stage, and turned them into some great results. So sending love to all of those countries. Once again, I'd love you to let me know in the comments down below what your favourite performances were. Who were you rooting for in Basel? Who were your growers? What will you remember this Eurovision season for? Positivity and love only, please. This is a celebratory video, and honestly, I'll just delete any comments that are looking to start a fight because it's my channel.